Anyway, on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this set up on my tablet. I'm going to do a video on my tablet and I'll upload that later. So you can see me on the, can't see me now, but that top right or left, however it looks on your screen, I don't know. That's where I'll be talking, or I can move that around. And then I'll do, you can see the screen with me as I'm reading, and I can move that down to the bottom right is what it is right now. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to do part of my book, part of the book, and then I'm going to do some screenshots of videos that I pulled up and did some screenshots, maps mainly, basically. Very, very fascinating. I mean, this is just almost mind-boggling. So, okay, so very insightful. So stick with me. Come back on if you can. Jim, come back on. Jim, where'd you go, Jim? All right. I'm not going to worry about it. I guess I'll just do this video and it'll be out there. So, so where we're at, I was going to go back and listen to my video from last week, and I don't remember where I ended up, but I know we were talking about being caretakers of the garden house. I read the section, how should we then be living? That's kind of a takeoff play on Francis Schaeffer's book, How Should We Then Live? You know, I never read the book, but you know, very highly regarded book. So, but I talked about the fact that, you know, a speaker that I heard in college said, when man sins, nature suffers. And so one of the things that I kind of basic idea of mine that I came to believe in, and I feel like the Father showed it to me, but we're given the command in Genesis to be fruitful, multiply, take dominion, replenish the earth, take dominion, and subdue it. 5 things. Be fruitful, multiply, take dominion, replenish the earth, take dominion, and subdue it. That's not all right, but anyway, there's 5 of them there. The middle one is replenish the earth. So my contention is, I think this makes sense to me anyway. Something like I pretty much believe. It may happen, it may not, but that we're told to replenish the earth, take care of the earth. You know, replenish the soil, not strip it. You know, not. They ran across Kansas with plows. They're so proud of what they could do as men. You know, they ran across Kansas with plows and plowed Kansas up from border to border, north to south, all the way across the state. Well, then they had a dust bowl, judgment, God's judgment on that idiocy. They killed billions of bacteria and microbes in the soil. Then what do these use? Fertilizer, you know. Yeah, anhydrous ammonia. Yeah, right. That kills billions and trillions of bacteria and worms and everything else. Everything else in the soil that's supposed to take care of the soil. We strip mine it. You know, they're going to do that in North Carolina, which we're going to get into today, very big time, because that's been a fascinating, just bugging me constantly every week. More and more things coming out about that whole scenario. You know, how many dead are there? 250? Let's try minimum 10,000. Yeah, so, all right. I should hit, I am recording this, okay, so, where's the 338, okay. So, strip mining, clear cutting, you know, logging, just cut everything and make me a nickel. Yeah, not a good idea. You're killing a lot of trees that are very valuable. You know, brush hogging and burning pastures. There's a good one. That kills. You know, you have mycorrhiza fungi, which is the largest organism on the earth. Largest living organism on the entire earth is mycorrhiza fungi. They could be a mile diameter, organism a mile wide, a living organism, thinking living organism, a mile in diameter. See, I learned a lot from my son was getting into cattle. And one of the things they said was that, you know, you can have a mycorrhiza fungi. It's one single organism, but it's a mile diameter. And if a plant over here needs calcium, it can send a signal, digest a rock, and bring the calcium back to that plant. Very, very amazing stuff. So, yeah. So, and I did not feel like doing this tonight, but I'm doing it. Okay, so hopefully Jim will get back on. Oh well. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to talk about the section of the book that I was reading. What we're faced with is I said last week that TJ of Grindstone Ministries, Refuge Medical, they got into North Carolina. Well, they got into Tennessee initially. Tennessee, they have a working deal with the state of Tennessee, and they, by extension, they get into North Carolina also. But they had, they had a lot of experiences with FEMA, and basically his assessment was we are in a protracted asymmetric war with the federal government, with FEMA, trying to keep supplies going to civilians and not having them take them. He didn't say steal them, but they do not distribute anything, but they'll take what gets in there, they'll archive it, they'll put it into a warehouse. Who's ever going to see it? It's in the warehouse. Somebody's going to sell it eventually. Somebody's going to get rid of it. They're not going to use it. They're not going to give it to civilians. None of it goes to civilians. None of it, because they don't do that. They don't deliver anything. So my point is that there's a really bad situation going on there, really bad. If you're not aware of it, there's also a bad situation going on in Wyoming where they're burning off about 3 million acres. I don't know what it is. A few million acres of forest, because there's, again, minerals, lithium and stuff under that. So they want to mine that out. And it's BlackRock BlackRock bought the mine in, I think, North Carolina, and probably the one in Wyoming also. So they're gonna buy everything up and mine it out, strip mine it. So coal, blow the tops of mountains off, get the coal out. We're destroying the earth little by little. Fracking, for crying out loud, fracking. Just sheer idiocy. So it's going to come back on us, let me tell you. Dutch Sins, if you're not aware of Dutch Sins, look him up. But he used to do a lot of things on tornadoes. Harp rings and, what do you call them? Scalar squares and harp rings. Yeah. But he could predict where a tornado was. Like one day he said, I've never seen these, they're moving. These two harp rings are moving, which meant that there's either two semis moving or there's more likely probably two C-130s or something with next-red radar in them. He said they're going to push this tornado right through between here. He named two cities, right dead in the middle of them. And right between them was Joplin, Missouri. And 2 days later, sure enough, Joplin, Missouri got leveled. Looks like an extended barrage of, artillery hit that place. Well, that's what happened to North Carolina just recently. I want to throw something else out there I saw on a video. TJ from Grindstone Ministries, before he went in there, he had his people in first, and they set everything up, got communication going, he said, without communication, you don't have anything. We can't do anything tactical. We can't do anything. We can't get to people if we don't have communication. We can't find them if they don't have communication. We can't know where to bring stuff if we don't have communication. So his people went in and set up. He went in, helicopter flight or airplane, I don't know, but they went over a huge area, and he counted personally 60 to 65 mountaintops were destroyed by tornadoes. 60 to 65 mountaintops. So think about that one. Very bizarre. Very weird stuff. All right, so we need to be caretakers of the garden. We need to be caretakers of this earth, not strip it, not, the other thing they did in North Carolina was there's something like 250 or more. They've been burying radioactive waste and stuff for decades there. That all got washed out into the water. So there's radioactive debris in the water, along with a lot of toxic chemicals from PVC plants and other things. All the oils and gas fuels and stuff all the tanks and tankers that got rolled up. And where you think a car getting a wreck, you've seen a car in a wreck, bad wreck. But the cars look like they were just rolled up like a pop can, just shredded and rolled up, compressed, crushed, because there's huge boulders coming down. We just roll over a car, crush the people in it, Very gross, very, very bad situation. Okay, but I want to talk about that a little bit later again. I'm going to come back to that. So let me get it back on here. So my point is this, is that all those 5 things, be fruitful, multiply, replenish your, take dominion and subdue it, that was the 5. they're not all saying the same thing, like have lots of kids. They're not all saying have lots of kids, have lots of kids. Be fruitful and multiply, yeah, have children. Replenish the earth. I believe, at least as in part, is to take care of the earth, to take care of the garden, to be caretakers, to tend it, to replenish it, to renew it, the soil. Help the forest. Be a caretaker of the forest, not clear cut it, not log it off completely. Do it selectively, judiciously. All those are far too prevalent. Waste dumping, toxic waste dumping, strip mining, clear cutting. All of those are far too prevalent. I know I may sound like I said this back when I said, I know I kind of sound like a liberal, but I don't now, I don't think. I'm not honest, but we do need to take care of the earth. When man sins, nature suffers. That's a statement, a fact. Man sins, nature pays for it. Consider that in the book of Revelation, many of the judgments that are going to come are earth-oriented judgments. In other words, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, pestilence, famine, and drought. Now, if we are living close to the earth, and maybe in an area where we're living close to the earth, and growing our wealth from the ground and raising livestock, caretaking the earth as we are commanded to by our Creator, and replenishing the soil, replenishing the earth, might it not be possible that we would be spared a great measure of judgment? I think that's a very sensible thing. Now, with what I was talking about earlier and what I saw, I'm going to come back to here in a minute, is that in North Carolina, that whole area of Tennessee and North Carolina were all people who were doing these things. They were, raising animals. They were farmers. They were gardening. They have orchards. They were doing all the permaculture type stuff there, and they got wiped out. I mean, I would get more like 30,000, but 10,000 people dead easily. Probably I would say minimum. Entire communities of people disappeared. There's nobody to turn in names because nobody survived. You can say, hey, well, we need to find out this family. There were 10 people in that family. There were 15 people in this family. There were 40 people in one little community, and they're all gone. All but one. One lady survived out of 40 people. That happened in hundreds of times, not just one, but hundreds of times that happened. So you add those up, the numbers get big pretty fast. Okay, so certainly I would hope that that would be the case if we are in an area of refuge, a place where God has designated it to be an area of refuge. It says in Isaiah 4 verse 5 that, quote, Yahweh will create on every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense, and there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a covert from storm and from rain. So that basically what I'm saying is that wherever believers are assembled, there hopefully will be protection. So what happened in North Carolina and Tennessee is my question. It's a rhetorical question. I mean, it's not a rhetorical question. It's not an obvious answer. I'm asking you, what is your opinion? Okay. I'm going to tell you what I think. And that is, I'm going to say it right now. Messiah said, when the Tower of Siloam fell, it fell on the just and the unjust, both. Okay, it fell on the just and the unjust. Well, now one time I was sitting at a computer at home down the hill here, and I was grousing. I must have been complaining about so many people are going to die. I must have said that. My oldest grandchild, Sarah Horan, standing there, and she said, Grandpa, you beat yourself up too much over this. She said, Jesus said when the Tower of Siloam fell, it fell on the just and the unjust. She said, when judgment comes, and we know it's coming, Grandpa. You know it, I know it. She said, when judgment comes, bad people are going to die, yes, but good people are going to die too. They were good people, Grandpa. They were just dumb people. So, all I'm saying is that my contention for years has been get west of the Mississippi, get south of the Missouri River, get north of the White and the Arkansas River, and get east of the rivers out to the west of the Ozark Plateau. Let's get into the Ozark Plateau. That's the safest place. And I'm going to go into that again. I'm going to come back to that again in this map I'm going to pull up here. I'm not going to be able to pull up in this, but I'm going to pull it up on my tablet. So get back on here tomorrow or the next day and look for the next video that's going to be coming up, because it'll encompass everything I'm doing right now. Plus, you'll be able to see the maps on the screen. All I can do right now would be to show you what I'm going to do. Okay. So, and then I said this is 20 years ago, 24 years ago. So I believe that there are going to be different areas of the country, perhaps eastern Washington, central Idaho, up in Michigan, parts of Montana, a little bit of Wyoming, Kentucky, Tennessee, perhaps many others. But I do believe that some of those are going to be temporary. I don't know. It's just conjecture on my part. Now, this was 24 years ago, okay? I already kind of pretty much believed that there would be one central safe area, but the other ones would be temporary, okay? And if you go to my channel and look up the video, There Is No Death, I See the Future. I read the chapter 4, titled I See the Future. A near-death experience of this woman who committed suicide. And she's shown the future of the United States. And in that she sees, basically, for lack of it, put it really briefly, a zombie apocalypse. People coming out of the cities and killing just to be killing. And that phenomenon killed more people in the United States than everything else put together. Than everything else. Nuclear war. She saw nuclear war. She saw 2 major plagues, epidemics, killed a bunch of people. Massive earthquakes that just rocked the country. But the thing that killed more people than everything else was this zombie apocalypse. People killing just to be killing. Not to steal, not to rape, not to pillage, just to kill. And it was basically a zombie apocalypse, what she saw. But she says in there, she saw points of light. And she came to call them cities of light, because what she saw they were people that were praying. And she said several things about those people. They knew something bad was going to happen. They were organized. They had leaders. They had food. They were willing to share that food. And when the hordes came to those areas, they went around them. They did not attack them. She said because they had protection and the Lord was with them. Protection, was that physical? Was that guns? Was it just angelic? I don't know. But the hordes just went around them. They didn't go into them at all. They didn't penetrate those areas at all. So we need to be an assembly of believers in, it says in Isaiah 4 verse 5, on every dwelling place of Mount Zion, upon her assemblies, a cloud and smoke by day and a shining of a flaming fire by night. There'll be protection, and the hordes will go around. There won't be any attacking by the enemy, by the hordes. Okay. I'm very clear, however, that the area of the central United States is now and will be one of the best places in the world to be. I'm going to go into that more, and that's what I'm going to go into now, than this, what I want to call the mystery map. And central United States, there's a region of the United States called the interior U.S. Highlands. The U.S. Interior Highlands, that's what it is. The U.S. Interior Highlands, look it up. Now, part of that is, it's just higher area, but the Ozarks are the main part of that. The Ozarks and the Ouachita Mountains is the interior, U.S. Interior Highlands, okay? They're from, 500 miles from the Rockies, 500 miles from the Appalachians, 500 miles from Canada, and 500 miles from Mexico, right in the middle of the United States. So I always felt there would be a safe place for God's people, for the Father's people, That just made sense to me, and I've had people believe that also. And then they find my stuff. I have a whole series of videos called Maps of the Ozark Plateau, How to Get to Goshen. I did a series on comparing the Ozark Plateau Refugium versus the Pacific Northwest Redoubt States, whatever. I feel sorry for those people, everybody that's up there. Okay, so anyway, I wish I was there. I wouldn't mind being there. I grew up in the Rockies. I love the Rockies. I wanted to go up to Idaho or Montana or Wyoming, but it didn't work out. I ended up here in the Ozarks. All right, so now I'm going to go into this. I'm going to try to speak clearly and get this out as best I can. Jim's not back on. Jim, come on back on, baby. Come on. Must be a little bit late for him. I started a little late because I got crawled into bed the second time I've done this. I got into bed and I'm like, oh crap, I was going to do a live stream tonight, so I got to do that. Tell people I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I try to stay on a schedule, so. All right, so here's the deal. I believe there is now and will be one of the best places in the world. Is now and will be one of the best places in the world to live. Now understand there are Russians here, hundreds, maybe thousands of Russians. Hundreds I know because there's Springfield, Missouri is full of Russians. And I'm not saying bad Russian troops. These are Russian Christians who escaped Russia back under persecution. Came over here and they had dreams and visions in their groups. So many dreams and visions that they took it as a truth, that God was telling them something. But they said, we got to go inland and to higher ground. We got to get to higher ground. We need to be inland as far as possible. So they came to the Ozarks from the west coast. I met one of them, a young kid, 19-year-old kid, Alexander the Great. His name was literally Alexander the Great. His family for 200 years named their oldest son Alexander the Great. They had an older brother and he died, so they had to have another son. So they had me. My name is Alexander the Great. So, but he told me, he said, I used to stand on the coast there in Washington and look out over the ocean. And in the back of my mind, I could see ocean levels rise. I knew I had to go inland and to higher ground. So that weekend, went to a gathering, and the first guy I walked up to, I said, hey, I've met this kid, and told him the story, and he said, yeah, there's hundreds of Christians in Springfield. He said, you know what? They have these weird prophecies in their group saying that they needed to go inland and to higher ground because the ocean levels were going to rise. He had heard that from multiple Russian families in Springfield, Missouri. And a bunch of Russians, about 40 welders in Russia were from Russia. In Stockton, Missouri, were building tugboats and barges to build a new canal through Costa Rica, like the Panama Canal, but Costa Rica Canal. Anyway, they would sell tugboats to China because they were so well built. They weren't disposable. You buy a tugboat, it's good for maybe 1 year, and then you throw it away. You sink it, scuttle it, and buy another one. He said these will last the rest of their lives, so they buy them. All right, so here I'm going to go into this now. That this is and now and will be one of the best places in the world to be. This will be based upon the Christian Patriot Civil Defense, the CPCDA, Christian Patriot Civil Defense Association. Okay, this held from Scottsbluff, Nebraska to Lubbock, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia to Pittsburgh. I'm reading this wrong. Scottsbluff, Nebraska to Lubbock, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania would be the area to gather to, and how big the safe area ended up being would depend on how many good people gathered there before the breakdown. All right, now where did I get that from? I'll tell you. Johnny Bob Harrell. This was a Patriot guy. He used to run militia, maneuvers on his farm in Illinois, and you should know that George Washington's plantation was called Mount Vernon, right? And Johnny Bob Harrell built a scale model of Mount Vernon, but not smaller. He built it bigger. It was a bigger version. The house and everything was larger than George Washington's house on Mount Vernon plantation. So Johnny Bob Harrell was quite a character, and he's the one that made this map. If you watch this video that I'm recording on now, and we're at 23 minutes on it already, you'll see the map on the screen. I can pull it up here. In fact, I'm going to go to that next. Take a minute here. Hold on. I got to back out and then go back in. Come on. Now, I'll tell you the video where this is from. This lady shows us on the video. You can look and pull it up on your screen and screenshot it. That's what I did here. I'm going to pull this up and show it to you. It's the YouTube channel is called Ozark Journey to Self-Sufficiency. Her name is Lisa. Lisa. Her name's Lisa. I met her. I actually met her. I was on the farm where she was at in Arkansas. She got from northwest Louisiana to northwest Arkansas on her own. She does video advertising and ads for people. She's really very gifted, very talented, and I wish I could get something like her to help me out. If I could have worked with her, man, we'd be doing great. I'm going to tell you her name here in a minute, but Lisa. Okay, so let me pull this up here. You'll note that it goes from about the northeastern very tip. There's a part of Minnesota that it looks like a hand sticking across. Okay, from the very part of that tip, very tip of that northeastern boundary of Minnesota down to the beginning of where Florida is flat. I can't quite read the city. Not Tallahassee, I don't think. And then over to about Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, something like that. So mid Texas, Great Lakes up to down to Texas, down to out to the East Coast to Florida. Okay, I'm going to hold this up here for you to look at. You'll see there's all kinds of notes on it, and there are different drawings at the bottom, across the bottom of it. So I'll hold it the best I can. So here, like I said, you'll see it on my the video I put up later, which I'm at 26 minutes now. Okay, so here's the fascinating thing that I saw about that, because I thought, well, I realized in my book I was saying this is the area, and so this triangle here, the red that you saw there, from Minnesota, the northeast corner of Minnesota, down to Texas and out to Florida, was a safe area. He called it at the bottom of this thing, you can see the notes, and it says, he called that a temple. He called that big triangle the land of Goshen. I don't agree with that, but I mean, whatever. A lot of people think only the northwest corner of Arkansas is the land of Goshen. And I kind of believe it's the Ozark Plateau area, but this is a safe area. Okay, it's the land of Goshen, a temple. This appears to be, I'm going to read it to you, because I kind of have it memorized and I can barely read it here. This appears to be the area to be less hit by Yah's judgment. In the initial gathering region, the first stage of gathering will be in small groups. The first stage of the gathering will be in small groups wherever you're at. So if you're out there to run the country and you want to get here, get people, good people together around you, you'll be a small group, and then Yah will bring you here. The first stage of the gathering will be in small groups wherever you are at, wherever you are now. This golden triangle will be the second stage of the gathering, and many will be led or driven here. I think in one place it says led, but this is all I see here is driven. People will be driven here. Okay, and then in that, so you see an area like a cloud, which is about the size of the Ozark Plateau. He calls that the mercy cloud. Those fleeing the mark of the beast will be, whether it be chip, something, I can't read that, it's off the screen, so I can't read it. I can't even begin to read it. I don't have that part memorized. Yeah. Mercy cloud is basically the second stage of the gathering. Okay.